So for those that don't know really quick about why I requested a low acid blend, I think it'll be important. And then let's, as we do this, let's get this kind of roasting soon so we can kind of get started. I just can't wait to try it. I really cannot wait to try it. Back in August of last year, I started feeling like sick to my stomach like 24/7. Like I didn't know what it was, to the point that I had to stop working out. I was almost like pretty much like bedridden for like it was just miserable. I would like be gagging in like public speaking events, and I couldn't figure out like why, like what was going on. So after a couple doctor's visits that were completely waste of time and a couple other things, I watched a hour-long podcast thing of some Indian guy going through acid reflux symptoms, and I'm like, that's exactly what I have. And he mentioned getting rid of anything acidic, so coffee, citrus, anything with bubbles. So I drink a bunch of coffee and a bunch of sparkling water, like daily. And those are two things that cause acid reflux more than anything else. So the moment that I cut out coffee, my acid reflux was gone, which stinks because I love coffee. And so after I allowed my esophagus to heal, I started feeling a lot better. My wife found a low acidic blend at Trader Joe's. And I haven't had coffee in it was probably been 3 months at that point. I hadn't had coffee. I was scared to try it again. And we brewed this pot of low acidic Trader Joe's coffee, and I drank it and I felt amazing. So then I was like, well, maybe I can just have coffee again. So once we were done with that bag, we went back to normal coffee, and I started feeling sick again. And so I can still drink some coffee like every other day, and I have to just drink like half a cup of normal coffee. But this is why I wanted Taylor to find maybe a specific low acidic blend that the podcast could promote, because I think there's a lot of people out there. And you mentioned there were requests for people looking for this.
Yeah, lots.
Even if you don't have acid reflux, you drink coffee and your stomach hurts, you know, you're having cramps and like all this stuff that I know people that drink coffee a lot can feel. The goal of this would be to maybe minimize some of those symptoms and allow people like me that love coffee can still experience coffee like without feeling sick all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see kind of how this goes today. So we're going to be trying this. So I'm going to go grab the hot pot, and I'm going to let you do everything you need. Can I smell it though?
Go for
open
it.
The bag?
Yeah, you just rip it open at the top, and then there's going to be a seal also.
Oh, that smells good. So what kind of coffee do you like? Like what's some notes that you enjoy roasting and sourcing as we do this?
So my favorite to roast, this is just kind of dorky coffee roasting, but my favorite to roast is Ethiopian because it gets super messy when you roast it. So not a lot of people know that when you roast coffee, it's kind of like popcorn where it does shed, they call it a chaff.
Maker,
yes,
right?
You can use a popcorn maker to roast coffee.
Do you want to smell
so,
it again?
I mean, I will gladly smell it again.
It smells so good.
Great.
Oh, for those that, if I'm looking past the camera, Matt's right there. Taylor's husband is sitting right back there. You guys can't see him, but he's there, and he's going to be probably sipping on some of this coffee too. So if I'm like awkwardly looking past the camera, how you doing, Matt,
Looking
over
into
there?
Matt's
You doing
eyes.
good? Doing good. Good. All right, I'm going to grab this hot pot.
Cool.
And we'll do this. Taylor, I trust whatever you want to do here.
Okay.
Here's this. We've never done anything like this on the show before.
So anyways, the air roasting process, you do have to do in small batches.
Okay.
So that already steers big commercial coffee roasters away from doing that because more time takes to roast a batch. So there's a couple different machines you can get, but the one I have does 10 pounds at a time, which if you think about somewhere like Starbucks or Tim Hortons, 10 pounds is probably what they sell in, 30 seconds at one store. I don't even know. So they're obviously not going to use that roasting process. But what that does is it lets the beans tumble while they're roasting. So a couple different roasters, the beans are sitting right on that heat source. These ones, the air is coming from the bottom and it's air roasted. So the beans are getting pushed up by the hot air and they're constantly tumbling. They're constantly tumbling while they're roasting. So that's getting a consistent heat to every bean in that batch. And none of them are able to get burnt because they never stop moving and they're never sitting on the heat source.
So that's the purpose, is to make sure every bean is roasted equally.
Yep. So you're not getting inconsistent where you're like, well, that sip was really bitter and that sip was really acidic. And then you're also losing. So the bitterness aspect is my favorite thing and the thing I like to promote. So because you're getting consistent heat, that makes for a very smooth flavor. You're not getting any surprises. It's the same. You put in too many grounds, it's the same. You put in too few grounds, it's the same. unless you really overdo it. The air roasting process also removes that bitterness because there's no beans getting burnt at the bottom. So even if you made a batch and one bean got stuck under the spinner or on the heat source, you just ruined your whole batch because now you have grounds that are burnt and bitter. So that's been the biggest thing in making a low acid blend. Like I already have a leg up because
Of how
bitterness,
you roast the beans.
yes, burnt beans is the biggest reason you're getting acidic coffee.
Do you know if how the beans are, how long they sit before when they've been picked, they're waiting to be roasted?
Okay.
I read, so I don't know if this is true or not, but I read somewhere that the longer they sit from being picked to being roasted can actually, like, because if beans spoil some and they get mold on them and all that kind of stuff,
Yes.
that can influence acidity as well.
Yes.
Did you find that at all anywhere? Okay.
And that was one of the other things. So burnt beans was like number one on the list of, when you start research, why is my coffee bitter? Why is my coffee acidic? The number two thing was your coffee's moldy. And there was a couple different spots throughout the process. So the first is, like you said, if you have a lot of these coffees are grown and produced and cleaned, washed, picked in other countries. So there's not as much regulation all the time.
Of what can happen, sure.
Yeah. So sometimes different regions, different crops, different farmers do different processes, and some are way better than others. Yeah, there's some that need to soak in the sun. And if you get rain and then it's sun and then it's rain and then it's sun after they've all been picked.
You're asking for problems.
Yeah, I mean, there's no consistency in that. Some processes remove the coffee bean from the coffee cherry right away. Some let it sit in there to kind of absorb some of that flavor. Like
Sure.
It is kind of a fruity flavor
Yeah.
for longer. Sometimes the process that they use, if it's water process to remove it from the cherry, if they're actually having somebody peel the cherry away to get to the bean, sunlight, all of that stuff.
Wow.
And like I said, there's not a lot of, I'm sure there's regulation over there, but if you're getting something brought to the United States, it's not always meeting that
Yeah,
expectation.
man. Like, how can you control that, though?
Yeah. So you have to be really choosy about your sources. So getting started, I have a place that I source them from that really is around the world. But there's some things that they don't have access to yet either. So I'm branching out into new sources, but I definitely don't want to be ordering moldy coffee beans. So I've been very choosy with that, and I'm sure I'll find new suppliers too. But even when you're getting coffee beans that they're saying this is organic, you're like, by whose standards?
Yeah.
United States
and what
organic?
does organic mean?
Yes.
Right, because that could mean, they could be organic, like no pesticides, but it could still be moldy, nasty coffee,
Yep.
right? Technically, like.
Yeah, you could be organically grown, but then are they organically processed?
Right.
Are they organically shipped? Are they organically roasted, packaged?
Interesting.
It's a whole thing.
And I feel like so many times people just slap in the organic just so they can charge more money.
Yeah. Well, it does cost a lot to get that label too, because basically everything in your shop has to be organic, because as soon as you throw a non-organic bean through a grinder that a organic bean went through, it's not organic anymore.